Hi, so I'm gonna get right into it with my presentation about my leader. Um, I knew right away who I was gonna pick. I hope this is okay, but I'm gonna pick my dad. The first question was, why did this person emerge as a leader? And pretty given, he was always been a leader in my life because he's one of my parents. He's kind of been the parent that's taught me how to like do sports, how to drive, how to kind of do things like that. My mom wasn't very athletic, and I did a lot of sports growing up, and he did a lot of sports, and he's very athletic. So he taught me how to play a bunch of different sports. He taught me how to drive. He got me a four wheeler. He's just been kind of been that parent for me. He didn't do a lot of disciplining. That was my mom, but he was always a leader in that sense. He's also a contractor and he owns his own contracting business. So I remember from a really early age, he would take me to work and he'd teach me how to like, paint some things here and there, how to build or like just do like really small projects or help him. So I've always kind of looked up to him in that kind of way. And then I guess my mom was always just like, she disciplined me or I'd ask her for everyday help or advice, kind of like that type of parent. I look up to her in many other ways. And then later on in my life, kind of when COVID started happening, I took a semester off at the end of summer, so the fall. So all of the summer and the fall, I ended up working for my dad in his business. And he owns like I said, a contracting company, and he mainly does painting. He does minor repairs and stuff like that too. So after that happened, I looked up to him in a completely different light. He has been a phenomenal boss. And, I wasn't quite sure how that would go, like a parent daughter relationship, father daughter. But he was a really great boss, and I want to say that in the least biased way I possibly can. He was always like extremely patient, and kind of as a parent, he always wasn't the most patient, especially when I was younger. But I was really impressed with like when he took that role of being my boss. He was very professional and patient with me. um, he taught me each and everything and the purpose behind it. So, I mean, when you're painting a room and you have to like tape off a baseboard, he would explain to me like you have to do it like this, and he would show me himself, and then he'd be like, and this is why it's important because this is why we're gonna do it, and you have to do it first before we even do A, B, or C. In the smallest little details, he would explain to me why we do it and how it fits into the overall effectiveness or end result or product. And in that way, I was always, because, as a new person or whatever, I'd kind of get the crappy jobs. I would get, taping off baseboards, or I would get, I was the one who ran out to the van and got all the supplies and brought it in while he would go in and talk to the client, or I would paint, the borders and trims so he could go in and just roll it real quick. So I always, low man on the totem pole. But every time that he would ask me to do any of those things, or caulking or anything that was kind of just monotonous work, he would explain to me why it was important and why it was important to the overall end product and why I was doing it and why I needed to learn the basics. And he knew that I was just doing it for a job because of COVID and, other things fell through. But he would always teach me as if I was going to take over the business, even though he knew that I might not. But it's really important to him. And he thought it was important for me to have that knowledge in case I want to do something with it. And I think that's a really amazing thing for a boss to do. So I was always very impressed by that. I've never had another boss do that. And we still got things done really quick. It wasn't like he explained all these things and we took 3 hours, extra hours to get things done. Like we got them done way faster. And it made me appreciate doing kind of the crappy jobs, instead of just sitting there like other bosses I've had where they're just like, do this, get this done. And then, then I'd sit there and be like, "Ugh, I don't want to do this. Why am I doing this? Why does it matter? Can I just kind of slack off?" Like after he would explain to me those things, I was like, okay, yeah, I do have purpose. And he was always really, really appreciative of everything I did, which is that just really wasn't his parenting style. So it was just, I just saw him in a new light. And he would come by and say, like, hey, after I took the tape off, I didn't see one speck of anything wrong. And I was like, oh, okay, wow, like I did do good. That sucked, but I did a great job. Or he also wasn't ever afraid to tell me like when I messed up. There'd be days that I was extra tired, or there were days where I was grumpy, or where I just wasn't feeling it. And he'd come up to me and he'd be like, in a very nice way, he'd be like, you aren't feeling it today, are you? And I'd be like, no, I'm not, for whatever reason. And he'd ask if I want to talk about it or not. And he'd say, well, do you want to quit early today? Like, we can quit an hour early. because, like, no offense, but I want to do quality work, and there's no point in staying if you're not into it today. And I'd say, okay, I'm sorry. Like, yeah, let's do it tomorrow. We'll finish up. And then the next day, it made me feel bad inherently, but the next day I would come in and I'd be like, okay, I need to get my crap together and I need to do a better job because he was such a good leader that I wanted to impress him and I wanted to do good work for him. And I'd be like, yeah, I was slacking yesterday. I was slow. I wasn't doing the greatest jobs. I wasn't asking what needs to be done. So the next day I'd come in and then he'd always be like, wow, you did a lot better job than yesterday. And he always said it in a way that it didn't feel like he was attacking me. It just felt like he was letting me know that it needed to be done, in a different way, and I needed to do better. Sorry that was super long, but to answer question number two, was he a good leader or bad leader? I think he was a really great leader. Um, we didn't have any other employees at the time, so I didn't see him really interact with other employees, but I saw him interact with clients, and I saw the way that he would hear the job from the client, how he interpreted it, and then how he would get it done and communicate with them throughout the process. And I always thought it was really interesting. Which transformational leadership behavior was exhibited most strongly by him? I'd say he's a little bit of the intellectual stimulation because I think he's innovative. I think he likes to challenge. Like me, he'd always give me like new projects to see what I could handle, but he's definitely an idealized influence, extremely purpose driven. He created a company out of nothing from a very young age. He didn't go to college, didn't have the best home life, and he's just constantly worried about improving it. He's gotten into wallpapering now, and he's 70 years old. He could retire, and he just doesn't. He loves what he does, and he just wants to keep going all the time. He's my role model. I think he's role models for other people, and then he always follows through on everything he's said. I've never once been like, oh well, do as I say, not as I do. He's never been that type of person. Like, if he says it, he's going to live by it. And he's my role model because of stuff like that. And then four, was this leader competent, humble, and high in integrity? And provide examples. I think he's high in all of them. Very competent. He's, like I said, he figured out how to start a business. He is very successful. We used to live in Kansas City, and he had employees here and there, but as a one-man band, he had huge projects in Kansas City that he got done, or he'd hire temporary employees, and then he just had a great reputation there, so much that we've lived in a small town, Beloit. It's like an hour north of Salina, 4 hours away from Kansas City, and he still has clients 14, 15 years later calling him from Kansas City, commercial clients wanting him to come back and do it again at 70 years old, like so I would think he's very competent. Integrity as well, because that's what leads to a good reputation. I think if, when we're painting and there's a color, we're trying to cover up yellow, hard color to cover up. And we've already used 3 coats, and that's all the client paid for paint. And we'll go back. He'll say, we need to go do another day there. We're not going to charge him, but it needs to be done. I can see through it. They might not be able to, but I can see it. We do that all the time. And it would be for little things like that, or hey, I was walking back through, we missed a spot. I'll have you go over and do an extra hour and just fix that. They're never going to notice, but you need to do it. Or he'd make suggestions and be like, hey, I don't know if you saw this, but this needs to be worked on. We can do some repairs, no cost. Like, I think he has a lot of integrity and really great morals. And then until I worked for him, I didn't realize what kind of reputation in our small town, and then even in Kansas City, that he had, because I would hear the clients talk and be like, I heard this from this person. I wanted to call you because of this. And I didn't know that because he's so humble. He doesn't tell my mom and I that. I don't even think my mom knew half the stuff. So overall, he will always be, when someone asks about a leader that I think about, it's always my dad for multiple reasons. He's just such a different person when it comes to parenting and business, which I am very lucky. I've got to see both sides. And yeah, I'm sorry this went over, but I hope that's okay.